Hi, I'm Bethany Wallace, and I want to talk to you about why there are so many jobs available right now and so few people interested or applying or willing to work, willing to keep with the job if they are hired. And I think that this is a problem that we're facing across the United States. It's not just specific to a region, a state, or anything like that, because I hear lots of my friends who are in HR and talent acquisition talking about this, and business owners and a lot of small business owners who are just closing up shop. So what can we do about it and how can we deal with it? Well, I'm going to just talk specifically about Gen Z because that's the generation that I've done the most research on and lots of presentations, and I've worked with Gen Z extensively and still do. So I'm going to talk to you about the ease of economic improvement in relation to Gen Z. And so this video is going to have 2 E's, and the next video will have 2 more. So make sure that you catch part 2. So the first 2 E's I want to share with you, the first one is enabling. That this is kind of a big problem in our society right now, specifically with children, college students, recent grads. And it comes from all different places and sources, so we can't just point to one place or another. Of course, it can be parents enabling children. And by enabling, I mean doing something for someone that they can do themselves. So another source of enabling may be from the government. If there are too many government subsidies, then people can become very easily reliant on those. Another source of enabling can come from schools. And sometimes schools face a lot of pressure, whether it's K through 12 or higher ed, to enable students. And they get that pressure sometimes from parents or from lawmakers or whatever, but it's like giving them the material, giving them the answers, giving them all of this academic information and not requiring much effort on the child's part or student's part. Those are just, and then employers also can enable employees. And sometimes it's because they're fearful of losing good employees or just employees, period. They're fearful of having to close their business. And so instead of expecting those employees to do for themselves what they can do, they do it for them and they don't report that there's a problem and they just try to make it. And I am not placing any judgment on any of these parts. What I'm saying is that this enabling is a huge problem in, I'd say, a pandemic in our culture, in our society. And I'm specifically focusing on Gen Z because these are the employees of now and of the future. And so if we aren't really diligent about how we're parenting and teaching and guiding and coaching and mentoring them, then we can't really expect anything to change or improve. The second E that I'm going to cover in this video is engagement. And I want you to think about how engaged are your children who are 26 or under, or how engaged are your employees? How engaged are your students? Well, so engagement can kind of go both ways. This can be a positive or negative, because if students are really engaged, if children are really engaged in whatever it is, like engaged in activities, engaged in really learning about work and learning soft skills, and you're teaching them life skills and they're engaged in part of the process, then there can be a lot of hope there. And you can really produce some great results when working with a student when they're fully engaged. When students aren't engaged, when Gen Z grads, when entry-level employees are not engaged, then what we end up with is a lot of enabling, of us having to do for others what they should do themselves because they don't really want to be there, they're not really into it, instead of engaging with their job or with their colleagues or with the process or with trying to find the value behind their job. Instead of doing that, sometimes there's too much reliance on screens, on digital, on social media. And if you're getting sort of this, fuel for living from a virtual world, when people honestly aren't really themselves, so it's not reality, then you aren't going to be very engaged in the real world. So it's sort of that concept that I've talked about before of be where your hands are. And if we can really coach students and graduates and employees into this process of trying to be fully present, creating situations that um, encourage people to be fully present, then will help them become more engaged. Also, appreciation and gratitude goes a long way in encouraging engagement. And that can be whether your child is 5 years old or you have a 25-year-old employee. But the more appreciated that a person feels, and the more that they feel like there's value, that others perceive that they are valuable in the workplace, then the more likely they are to be engaged and stay engaged, and even share about the company with others, so it can help with your marketing and branding. So those are the first two E's, and the next video I'll share the next two. If you need help with teaching soft skills to your Gen Z students, college students, grads, entry-level employees, then you can reach out to me at bethanywallaceco.com.